I'm really happy to be here. Exactly, I was thinking on my way when I was coming to Sofia that exactly my first time when I was in Bulgaria was somewhere 80 something, where exactly my family, we came by car from Finland to Turkey, and we passed through for the Bulgaria, and that was really exciting. I would say that it's really interesting journey. But exactly that's a little bit somehow reflected me a little bit on that exactly perhaps we need to now take adventure. Really, we're trying to find out that perhaps the business as usual doesn't function. And this is my kind invitation for you to really think out of the box as much as you can. And hopefully I can inspire you partly on that, and hopefully during these 2 days we can also find some kind of revolutionary ideas how we can really change the world, because we are really in the urgency at the moment. It's really time for the emergency. We don't have afford anymore for the business as usual. So, like was explained, Bridge 47 was born before the Agenda 2030 negotiations started. So exactly me and a couple of other crazy people all over the world, we decided that now is the time to really get the so-called non-formal, informal, educational aspect, what exactly civil society has done forever. We haven't really had the fancy academic name on that, but exactly that way how we can really get the people on board, how the people can really have been powered to really play the roles in the societies on there. And then we started this journey to really making the global advocacy, and finally exactly the SDG 4.7 was created, which perhaps this is best lobbying action ever on my life. I hope that it will be celebrated after the 2030, which is the deadline for the Sustainable Development Goals and Agenda 2030. That was the starting point for building the Bridge 47. So it really came quite organically on that way, that we wanted to find the ways how we can really exactly highlight more in parallel with the formal education, the non-formal and informal education, and adult lifelong learning issue as well. And that was the starting point. And then we had a huge project, which this is the summary, what we did in that time. So we built this network, we did a lot of advocacy, trying some kind of uncomfortable partnerships as well, finding the innovations, etc. And now exactly a year ago, we decided that exactly we want to be the independent organization. So we are the international organization at the moment, registered in Finland, but international organization, which really is focusing now on the absolutely the fundamentally importantly implementation of the full SDG 4.7, all of those value-based educations, and then starting to think about that what is happening after 2030 when the deadline for the Sustainable Development Goals is going to be happen. And I'm repeating partly that what a colleague mentioned already about this current situation, and I want to be specifically in purpose a little bit dramatic, because I think that we need to wake up at the moment where we are living. Oh no, that's too dramatic. Anyway. So that is the case where we are. We really have the multi-crisis at the moment. And at the same time, it's absolutely frustrating, it's really painful, it's horrible, but it's opportunity. And I think that we need to really see that momentum as well in a positive way whenever it's difficult to really handle the daily life in these circumstances where we are. Just a reminder that which is nothing new for you. You all know that we are living really in the very conflict situations in the world at the moment. So there's more wars and armed conflicts in the global level at the moment after the Second World War. So in that way, we as human beings, we haven't really done well. I think that it's really going in the negative side. Of course, the money talks a lot at the moment, and this is exactly the traditional view of seeing that how the global economics goes on. It's always measured by the GDP, so how much exactly we can support the growth, and really thinking about the current political crisis at the moment, it's all about the trade and all about that who is winning in the global trade games, which is totally wrong position, and exactly we should be much more worried about that how much is really increasing the inequality in many levels. So we all are witnessing the situations that where those parts of the government's budget cuts is always going for health, education, social security, because of the increasing the money for the defense, etc. So this is the classical stereotype logic by the governments at the moment, and it's not very human. We all know that. And I think that's really is the point, that we are by the political positions, we are moving on more and more polarized societies, where less and less those who are really benefiting about the stable societies, and more about those who can really have the strong power in the hands of the people. So that's the one political context where we are living. Another one is that what is happening with the technology at the moment, it's really horrible, or even to really say on that, because especially many of the Western countries, and now it looks like that also in the global point of view, it really looks like that people really believe that technology is really solving all the problems what we are having. And then the question from us as an education point of view is really a question that, is it really like that? Should we really think about that? There has to be the ethical part of that. How exactly the robots are going to solve all the problems in the future? What's the point of the human beings? I think that it's really, really big fundamental question what we need to really think about that. And not really only thinking that what the current trend by the many of the governments is really that the point for the education is only to have the good working skills. So that's the motivation for the education, nothing about the elsewhere. And I think that it's one of the points where we have to be very, very much worried about that what we are going to do on that. Another one is this fantastic media, which is everywhere, which really dominates our life at the moment. There are the global statistics at the moment that the individuals who has the access for internet, they are using more than 2.5 hours per day in the internet. Think about that. Out of the 24 hours, more than 2.5 hours you are using for that. For what is the question? And I think that it's a little bit scary that the media, the social media, all of those technologies, misinformation, disinformation, which is really increasing there, how much is really affecting on the mentality of the individuals. And I think that it's really, really point to keep in mind that what is our role to really equip the people in that way that they are capable to understand that what is misinformation, what is disinformation, what is really the relevant actors, how we can use that in the good way. Perhaps the most urgent part is the planetary boundaries, and you might have heard about in the news in this week that these some kind of absolutely the crucial areas, which this is the research what the Stockholm Resilience Institute has done during the years. So measuring about some kind of absolutely the areas which are really crucial for the future of the planet. You see those colors on there, and more red or orange is going on, the more in the worse direction we are going on. And in this week, the news came out that exactly we are really losing the corals at the moment, which means that exactly this is one of those really the tipping points where the planet from the environmental point of view is going in the wrong direction, and we can't stop it anymore on that development. So that's really is the urgency at the moment, that we can't really forget the planet, the environmental aspect, and we definitely need to find ways how we can really keep that aspect on mind, because really this planet is boiling. We have witnessed that, every one of us, for example, in the last summer, etc. Then the role of the global on the education, and of course education is fundamentally important tool, and that's a little bit the point which the older I'm getting a little bit more frustrated as well, that we are using so much time on the vocabulary about the names. Is it global citizenship education, or education for sustainable development, or peace education, or media education, or human rights education, or whatever education? Honestly, it doesn't really matter. What matters really matters that how we act. And I think that helps us to bring together all of us, because we need to really empower ourselves. But I think that we need to really use those educations as a tool to make the change. And that is really, really important one. Definitely formal education is absolutely fundamentally important foundation. But like you see, there's still a lot of work to be done. So exactly in the global level, the resources for the education is cut. I'm going to show you one statistics in a minute. But I think that we need to really enlarge the understanding of the education also in the informal and non-formal sector. We don't have the time at the moment to wait that people are coming through the educational system and be ready and be better persons than we are at the moment. It's urgency at the moment. And that's why we need to work in parallel in different levels at the same time. So that's the only solution how we can really survive. So this, and sorry, it might be too small, but happy to share these slides with you afterwards on that. But the point in the left side is in different regions that exactly the main message really is that the education from the budget point of view by the governments is cut. That's going down. And I think we all have experienced that in many places, even that's the case in Finland as well, which have been seen one of those pioneers in education level. So anyway, this is the situation that is not seen important area, which I think we all disagree on that, but it's the point. On the right side, it tells that exactly this curve, which is going down, means that exactly more than half of the ministers of education, that the person who is running the education show in the country level, has quit. So exactly half of the ministers during their political term, they have just resigned, which tells something about that it's not really the most fancy political position where you want to be. There's many other areas where it's much more, of course, the finances, defense, foreign affairs, etc. So the education is not seen as importance on that. And I think that this is the signal as well that definitely we need to be aware on that how could we really support on that, but in parallel also finding the other ways how we can really make the positive change happening. And then last, some kind of catastrophic point of view for you to share is the so-called full democracies. And I think that the worrying message is that only 8% of the world's population, the population of the planet, lives in the full democracies. And even in these full democracies, we really see the signals that is going in the worst direction. And that's why I think that some kind of core of the global citizenship education really is that how the people really act in the societies. And that really is fundamentally important, that we have, every one of us, we have our responsibilities to play the role. Okay, with these catastrophic situations, I still see hope on there. And I think that we need to really think how we are using our time, because perhaps the only thing in the world which is totally equal is the time. Every one of us, we have 24 hours per day, and it really depends how we use that. And I think this is something that we need to use it clever way. And two examples which we have really witnessed in the Bridge 47 is that the first one is that we have to have this whole of school approach, which really means that the GCE or whatever you call it, it's not only by the one teacher or the one person there who is desperately trying to really sell it for the rest of the school, but it needs to be everywhere. And I just finalized the research for the Finnish National Board of Education about the so-called liberal adult education schools, what we have in Finland, 267. And I make the research about them, that how they are exactly, how the sustainability is seen in all the activities what they do. Is it part of the strategy? Is it part of their board meetings? Is it part of their financial planning or their environmental aspect, etc.? And it was fascinating because we really find a lot of good examples about that how exactly this way of really walk the talk about the sustainability really matters. It's of course included in the curriculum, but it's much more. And that's one of the good examples. Another one is the whole of society approach, where we definitely, or you can call it as a multi-stakeholder approach, but I think it's a little bit more. So it's really having this similar style of thinking, that how the educational ways of working could exactly help the society be more sustainable. And that really is the core where I think we should go on that direction, and using exactly the education as a tool to make it happen. Because that is a very powerful tool if we use that in the right way, and then in the end it will hopefully make the better progress. I mentioned already about this non-formal, informal part, and again about this fundamental foundation of the formal education, because that's which is giving some kind of tools for you to learn more. But the main point really is that you need to really, or we all need to have some kind of forever lifelong learners, so that we have that kind of attitude that we are ready to learn and challenge ourselves and finding the ways to move on. And one perspective, what we are promoting in the Bridge 47 is really that the SDG 4.7, which is of course my dear baby, we need to see that everywhere on the Sustainable Development Goals. It's not enough that we are only focusing on that one target on there, or not only internally in the Goal 4, but really seeing as a tool that it really matters in every part of the implementation of the Agenda 2030. And we are really in a rush. We have already managed globally achieve 17% of the goals. So we are really far behind. And I think that's the business as usual. Again, it's not enough to move on. And that's why I think that, for example, the climate change shouldn't only seen as an environmental aspect, it's social and economic aspect as well, as an example. So I think that it needs to be seen from the systematic point of view, and finding the ways that how could we, what I'm doing, really seeing that what are the tools in every sector of the societies, or every aspect of the life, how we are really participating. So it's really important. And then last example coming from the living democracy, and this is the picture from Serbia. I think many of you are very much aware about the current horrible situation. Just the one example in the world. Unfortunately, we have many other ones at the moment. But I admire all of those people who are really making that happen. They really walk the talk, what exactly the democracy is. They are vocal on that. They are showing that this is not right. The government is not really doing what it has to be done. And in that way, I think that it's one of the good examples which could inspire all of us. I'm not really inviting you to the streets just now, but as some kind of example how we might need to think about different kind of tools, how we can really challenge, because I think that exactly the current situation that we only have the some kind of statements or curriculum in the country level is very good and very important. But it's not enough, because it's not really making the change what is just now needing in this emergency. And one of the things is really that we need to get the peace back to the global agenda, because now it's only wars at the moment. And I think that this is something what intellectually we also need to challenge ourselves, that how we can really find the ways that we are really putting the peace back to the conversations. So we are building the peace in every single moment where we are living, whoever we are talking, starting to making the peace in my territory, in my circles, and then widening that up, that how we can really get the peace back to the agenda, because it's not at all there on the agenda. But then finally, what we do at the moment as Bridge 47 is that we hope to help on concretizing, depending on the countries, the national or local-wide multi-stakeholder cooperation, so really make it that more some kind of action-oriented, so that it's good that there are the school curriculums, there are the strategies, etc. But I think that we need to have a little bit more, some kind of visible, more radical, even implementation phases. But it really includes also that you need to build the trust between the different multi-stakeholder actors. It's not always easy, I know, but at least in those places where it's possible, it's really important to really think that are the tools what we are using, are they really the best ones? Or are they good in that time what we are living? Because I think that, like Dita mentioned on that, 5 years ago, we really felt that exactly this is the right tool what we are using. But environment has been changed so rapidly and dramatically, and that's why I think that we need to really stop and think that what might be the better tools to do that. But definitely I think that what we need to really find out is really that how we can really have a positive impact, the change to be happened. Also thinking out of the education sector, because the education sector itself has its limits. There's quite classical tradition to thinking about education. What can we reimagine that which kind of education would be needed in this time what we are living, or the future what we are living? And then how can we really work with the other sectors as well, out of the education sector, so that we can really combine having some kind of new innovations, new perspectives to reimagine that what might be the best tools for the human beings for living in this planet in a healthy way and have this planet existing in the future. So that's one part what we are working on. And the second one is that we have already started to think about that what is happening after 2030, where the Agenda 2030 is going to its deadline. And definitely from our point of view, we want that something like SDG 4.7 is going to stay. Honestly, I don't care what is the name on that, but I do care that exactly this holistic view of understanding that how fundamentally important tool the education is, we can really keep it on there, and then collectively then we can brainstorm that what might be the best formulation on that how to implement on that. But this is also, of course, the open invitation for any of you who might be interested to join the forces, so we are more than happy to work together. I think that's it.
Thank you, Rilli.